Hello, everyone, and welcome. Whether you are listening to this on your morning commute, at your desk, or in the quiet of your evening, I am so glad you are here. If we haven't met before, my name is Mira, and today we are going to have a conversation. Not a lesson, not a lecture, but a real conversation about something that I know keeps many of you awake at night. I want to start with a memory. I want you to picture a conference room. It's on the 30th floor of a building in downtown Seattle. Or maybe it's New York or London. The view outside is breathtaking, but you aren't looking at the view. You are looking at the polished mahogany table. You are looking at the 6 other people sitting around it. They are native speakers. They speak fast. They use idioms like low-hanging fruit and circle back and move the needle. And there you are, the smartest person in the room regarding the data. You built the model. You analyzed the trends. You know the answer to the problem they are discussing. But you say nothing. Inside your head, there is a traffic jam. You have the thought in your native language. You are frantically translating it into English. You are checking the grammar. Is it in the meeting or at the meeting? Do I use past tense or present perfect here? And while you are fighting this war inside your brain, the moment passes. Someone else, someone with half your expertise but double your confidence, says a version of what you were thinking. Everyone nods. The meeting moves on. And you are left with that heavy, sinking feeling in your chest. The feeling of being invisible. If you have ever felt that, this episode is for you. Today, we are not going to talk about vocabulary lists. We are not going to talk about how to reduce your accent. Because I'm going to tell you a truth that might shock you. Your English is not the problem. The problem is the story you are telling yourself about your English. For the next 45 minutes, we are going deep. We are going to dismantle the imposter syndrome that haunts non-native speakers in the corporate world. We are going to talk about why your obsession with perfect grammar is actually destroying your career. And most importantly, I am going to give you the exact mindset shifts, the psychological rewiring that will take you from feeling broken to commanding the boardroom. So, take a deep breath. Let's begin. Let's be honest about what is really happening when we step into that office. When we move to a new country or when we start working in an international environment, we undergo a strange psychological transformation. I call it the shrinking. Back in your home country, you were funny, you were witty. You were the person people came to for advice. You could command a room with a joke. You had a personality that filled the space, but in English, you feel like a child. You feel like a compressed version of yourself. You can only express 60%, maybe 70% of your intelligence. And that gap, that 30% gap between who you know you are and how you sound, is where the pain lives. Psychologists have a term for this. It's called status anxiety. But for us, it's specific. It's linguistic insecurity. We start to believe a lie. The lie is simple. If I make a mistake, they will think I am stupid. Think about that. How many times have you stayed silent because you were afraid of a preposition? How many emails have you rewritten 5 times, spending 20 minutes on a 3-sentence message, just to make sure you didn't miss an S at the end of a verb? This is what I call the deficit mindset. When you walk into a meeting with a deficit mindset, you are focused entirely on what you lack. You are hyper-aware of your accent. You are hyper-aware of the words you don't know. You are playing defense. You are trying not to lose. But in business, in leadership, and in life, you cannot win by playing not to lose. I worked with a client recently. Let's call him Min. Min is a senior engineer, brilliant at what he does. He told me, "I feel like I'm wearing a mask. When I speak Vietnamese, I am a lion. When I speak English, I am a mouse." Min thought the solution was to study more grammar. He thought if he just learned 500 more GRE words, or if he finally mastered the TH sound, the mouse would turn into a lion. But that's the trap, because fluency is not the same as confidence. I know people who speak broken English but lead multi-million-dollar companies. And I know people with IELTS 8.5 who are terrified to order a coffee. The wall you are facing is not made of vocabulary bricks. It is made of fear. And until we dismantle the fear, no amount of vocabulary will save you. Now, I want to challenge a goal that I bet 90% of you have. The goal is, I want to sound like a native speaker. I want you to take that goal, crumple it up in a ball, and throw it in the trash can. Why? Because it is a destructive, impossible, and frankly, useless metric for success. First of all, what does a native speaker even sound like? Do you want to sound like a surfer from California? A banker from London? A rancher from Texas? There is no single native standard. But more importantly, trying to sound native is what is causing your paralysis. When your standard is perfection, any mistake feels like a failure. Let me tell you a secret about the corporate world in the US. Unless you are working as a news anchor or a voice actor, nobody cares about your accent. I really mean that. Your boss doesn't care. Your clients don't care. Your shareholders definitely don't care. What do they care about? They care about value. They care about clarity. They care about confidence. If you can save the company $100,000, do you think they care if you forgot the ed ending on a past tense verb? If you have a strategy that opens a new market, do you think they care if your R sound is a little hard? No. They care that you have the idea. But because you care about the grammar, you hide the idea. And that is the tragedy. You are withholding your value from the world because of your vanity. Yes, I said vanity. It is a form of ego. We are so obsessed with how we look, or sound, that we forget our job is to serve, to contribute, to help. There is a concept in communication called the burden of understanding. Many non-native speakers think, it is my job to speak perfectly so they understand me. But in a global environment, the burden is shared. It is also their job to listen, but they will only listen if you speak with conviction. When you apologize for your English, when you start a presentation by saying, "Sorry, my English is not very good," you are instantly lowering your status. You are telling them, "Don't trust me, I am broken." Never apologize for your English. Your English is a tool, it is a bridge. You built that bridge yourself, brick, by learning a second language. That is a sign of intelligence, of grit, of perseverance. Why would you apologize for being smart enough to learn a second language? So, the first step to boardroom confidence is to kill the native speaker ideal. Replace it with a new goal, the effective communicator. An effective communicator is not perfect. They pause, they rephrase. They might have a thick accent, but they are present. They are looking you in the eye. They are listening. And when they speak to be understood, not to be admired. So how do we actually make this change? How do we stop the shaking hands and the racing heart? It starts with a shift in identity. Right now, when you enter a meeting, you view yourself as a performer. Imagine a performer on a stage. The spotlight is on them. The audience is watching every move, judging every note. If the performer misses a note, the performance is ruined. This is how you feel when you speak English. You feel like everyone is grading your grammar. This is exhausting. It creates massive anxiety. I want you to shift your identity from performer to contributor. A contributor is not on a stage. A contributor is part of a team. Their goal is not to impress. Their goal is to help move the project forward. Let's look at the difference. The performer thinks, how do I sound? Did I use the right word? Do I sound smart? Focus is on self. The contributor thinks, does the team understand this data? Do they realize the risk in Q3? How can I make this clear for them? Focus is on the mission. When you take the focus off yourself and put it on the mission, the fear evaporates. Why? Because the brain cannot hold two intense focal points at once. You cannot be intensely obsessed with your ego and intensely obsessed with solving the problem at the same time. If you are truly worried about the Q3 budget risks, you won't care if you say, "We lose money," instead of, "We have lost money." You just want them to know the money is gone. This is the service mindset. Before you walk into your next meeting, stop in the hallway, take a breath, and ask yourself, what is the one thing I need to give to this room today? Maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's an idea. Maybe it's support. Focus on the gift, not on the wrapping paper. Your English is just the wrapping paper. The idea is the gift. Even if the wrapping paper is torn, even if it's messy, the gift inside is still valuable. Don't withhold the gift just because you don't like the paper. I remember a client of mine, Elena from Brazil. She was a marketing director. She was terrified of presenting to the US board. We worked on this shift. She told me, but what if I freeze? What if I forget a word? I told her, Elena, if you saw a child running toward a busy street and you had to scream to stop them, would you worry about your grammar? She said, no, of course not. I would just scream, stop. Exactly, I said, because in that moment, the mission, saving the child, is more important than your ego. Now, your marketing report is not life or death, but the principle is the same. If you believe your report matters, if you believe it helps the company, then you have a duty to speak. Your silence is selfish. Your speaking, even broken speaking, is generous. This shift from performer to contributor is the foundation. But we need more than just mindset. We need tactics. We need to know what to do when the words actually disappear. Okay, let's get practical. Mindset is great, but what happens when you are in the middle of a sentence and your brain just stops? We've all been there, the blank screen. You know the word in your language, but the English drawer in your brain is locked. Panic sets in. You start to sweat. You say, and you feel everyone's eyes on you. This is the moment that destroys confidence. I am going to give you a survival toolkit. These are 3 specific techniques to handle the freeze without losing your power. Tactic number 1, the recursive definition, defining the missing word. Never stop and apologize. Never say, sorry, I forgot the word. Instead, describe the word. If you forget the word for warehouse, don't freeze. Say, the big building where we keep our inventory. If you forget the word for negotiation, say, the discussion where we agree on the price. This is actually how native speakers talk when they have a brain fart. It doesn't sound like you don't know English. It sounds like you are being descriptive. It keeps the flow moving. Tactic number 2, the power pause, owning the silence. This is counterintuitive. When we are nervous, we speed up. We try to fill every second with sound because we think silence is awkward. We think silence means we are failing. But in the US corporate culture, silence is power. Think about the most powerful person you know. Do they talk fast? Do they say, every 2 seconds? No, they speak. They pause. They look at you. They speak again. When you lose your train of thought, don't fill it with, sorry. Just stop. Close your mouth. Take a breath. Look at your notes. To the audience, this looks like you are thinking deeply. It looks like you are careful. It projects authority. If the pause is too long, more than 3 seconds, use a bridge phrase. Let me rephrase that. Here's the key point. What I mean to say is, these phrases buy you time. They tell your brain, relax, we are just crossing a bridge. Tactic number 3, the bullet point method, simplification. When we are nervous, we tend to write long, complex sentences in our heads. We try to sound academic. Due to the fact that the marketing parameters were not fully optimized given the constraints of, and then we get lost in the grammar structure. When you feel anxiety rising, drop the complexity. Switch to bullet point mode. Subject, verb, object. Stop. Marketing is down. We need to change the channel. I suggest Facebook. Short, punchy, clear. In US business culture, brevity is king. Being concise is seen as a leadership trait. So when you strip away the complex grammar and speak in simple, direct sentences, you actually sound more leader-like, not less. You are not dumbing it down. You are cleaning it up. Now, we need to talk about the thing that everyone dreads. The moment that makes you want to disappear under the table. The interruption. You are finally speaking. You have gathered your courage. You are explaining your point. And suddenly, boom, someone cuts you off. Yeah, but I think the data says... And you stop. You crumble. You think, oh, they interrupted me because I was too slow, because my English is bad, because I'm boring. Listen to me carefully. They didn't interrupt you because of your English. They interrupted you because that is how corporate culture works, especially in the US. It is a contact sport. People interrupt each other constantly. They interrupt native speakers too. But when you get interrupted, you take it personally. You take it as a confirmation of your incompetence. So, how do you handle this? How do you hold your ground when someone tries to bulldoze over you? I'm going to teach you a technique called the broken record. It's simple, but it takes courage. When someone cuts you off, do not stop. Do not lower your voice. Do not apologize. Instead, use a firm, neutral phrase to reclaim your space. I wasn't finished yet, John. Please let me finish my thought. Hold on, I have one more point. And here is the secret. Drop your pitch. When we are nervous or defensive, our voice goes up at the end of the sentence. It sounds like a question. I wasn't finished yet? That sounds weak. That sounds like you are asking for permission. You need to speak with a downward inflection. I wasn't finished yet. Period. Full stop. It feels aggressive the first time you do it. Your heart will race. You will think, was I too rude? But look at their reaction. They won't be angry. They will likely say, oh, sorry, go ahead. And suddenly, the dynamic in the room shifts. You are no longer the person who can be pushed aside. You are the person who demands to be heard. You are teaching people how to treat you. If you allow them to interrupt you every time you pause to find a word, they will keep doing it. If you train them to wait, they will wait. Let's go back to something I touched on earlier, your accent. I want you to imagine a room full of people who all sound exactly the same. They all went to the same business schools. They all use the same buzzwords. They all have the same cadence. It's smooth, it's easy, and it is incredibly boring. Then you speak. Your voice has a different texture. It has a different rhythm. Maybe you roll your R's. Maybe your vowels are shorter. Guess what happens? The ear perks up. Biologically, the human brain is designed to ignore patterns that are repetitive and pay attention to things that are different. Your accent is a pattern interrupt for the room. It literally forces people to listen more closely. But you have to own it. If you speak with an accent and you are timid, people will tune you out. But if you speak with an accent and you are confident, you sound exotic. You sound worldly. You sound like someone who has traveled, who has struggled, who has a perspective that the local guy from Ohio doesn't have. Think about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Think about Ariana Huffington. Think about Sundar Pichai. Do they have accents? Yes, heavy ones. Does it stop them? No. It is part of their brand. It is part of their authority. When you speak with an accent, you are signaling, I have fought harder to be in this room than anyone else here. That is not a weakness. That is a badge of honor. I want you to try a mindset shift called the guest and the host. Right now, you feel like a guest in the English language. You are polite. You are careful not to break anything. You are waiting to be invited to speak. I want you to become the host. When you are the host, you don't worry if your house is perfect. You worry if your guests are comfortable. You take charge. You guide the conversation. Even if you are visiting a country, even if English is not your mother tongue, in your expertise, in your project, you are the host. Welcome people into your ideas. Don't apologize for the furniture, just serve the food. We have talked about philosophy. We have talked about tactics. Now, I want to give you a daily routine. You cannot build confidence by reading about it. You have to build it like a muscle. You need reps. But I am not going to ask you to study grammar books. I'm going to ask you to do the morning mirror challenge. Every morning, before you leave for work or before you log on to Zoom, I want you to spend 2 minutes in front of the mirror. Look yourself in the eye, and I want you to practice your power opening. Pick a topic, anything. The weather, your breakfast, the traffic, and speak about it for 30 seconds with absolute conviction. Don't worry about the words. Focus on the energy. Use your hands. Stand up straight. Project your voice. This coffee is the best coffee I have ever had because it is hot and strong. Say it like you are announcing a billion-dollar merger. Why do we do this? Because we are separating the physical act of speaking from the intellectual fear of error. Usually when you speak English, you are doing two things. You are trying to find words and you are trying to project confidence. It's too much multitasking. In the mirror, the stakes are zero. You are training your body to feel what confidence feels like in English. You are training your voice to be loud. You are training your eyes not to look down. If you do this for 14 days, I promise you, the next time you are in a real meeting, your body will remember. Your muscle memory will kick in. You will sit taller. You will speak louder. Not because you learned a new word, but because you practiced the posture of a leader. And here is one more small habit, the low-stakes practice. Stop saving your English for the big meetings. That's like saving your tennis practice for the Wimbledon final. Practice in low-stakes environments. Chat with the barista at the coffee shop. Ask a stranger for directions even if you know the way. Leave a voice note for a friend instead of a text. Make mistakes on purpose. Yes, I said that. Go to the store and ask for something using the wrong word. See what happens. Spoiler alert, nothing bad happens. The world doesn't end. The clerk just corrects you, you smile, and life goes on. You need to desensitize yourself to the pain of mistakes. You need to realize that a mistake is not a fatal wound, it's just a scratch. The more scratches you get, the less you fear them. As we come to the end of our time together, I want to leave you with one final thought. I know this journey is hard. I know there are days when you come home with a headache because your brain has been translating for 8 hours straight. I know there are days when you replay a stupid mistake in the shower over and over again, beating yourself up. But I want you to look at how far you have come. Think about the version of you from 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, the version of you that couldn't understand this podcast, the version of you that dreamed of working where you work now, living where you live now. That version of you would be so proud of who you are today. They wouldn't care about the grammar mistake you made in the Tuesday meeting. They would look at you and say, wow, we made it. We are working in a second language. We are building a life in a new world. Don't lose sight of that miracle because you are too busy looking at your flaws. Confidence is not a destination. It is not a certificate you get when you pass a C2 exam. Confidence is a decision. It is the decision to say, I am enough, my ideas are enough, and I will not let a verb tense stop me from changing the world. Tomorrow morning, when you walk into that office or when you log on to that call, I don't want you to be perfect. I want you to be loud. I want you to be messy. I want you to be present. Speak up, not because your English is perfect, but because your voice matters. Thank you for listening. Thank you for doing the hard work. If this episode resonated with you, if you felt seen today, do me a favor. Share this with one friend who needs to hear it. Or leave a comment telling me your story of a moment you chose confidence over fear. I read every single one. Go out there and own your voice. You've earned it.